Louis C. the Mayor checking in. What is going on, my people? A lovely day in paradise. Let me tell you something, boy. We got a legend with us today. Before we get it started, I want to give a shout out to FloridaKeysEnergy.com. Lawyers for all accidents in the Keys. If you have an accident on a moped, car, or bicycle, make sure you check in with these boys at 302 Southern Street. They're going to let you know what's going on and what your rights are, and they're going to take care of you. You got to keep it local. And also Dr. Burrows, the #1 doctor in America, worldwide, and planets above and beyond. Advanced Urgent Care, Key West Marathon, and Key Largo. There's a long wait for testing, so make sure you give them a call at Advanced Urgent Care, and they're going to put you in as soon as they can and take care of you. We're trying to get everybody tested across the Keys, all 80,000 people. And like I said, we had a serious accident today on US 1 with the FloridaKeysEnergy.com talking about accidents. Be careful out there because these streets are very deadly, one way in and one way out. Like somebody here will tell you back in the day on the 7 Mile Bridge, 18-wheelers used to clap mirrors. So it's definitely dangerous out there. We came a long way since that. So it's all love right now. Notifications, hit the button right here. For those y'all watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. So right about now, we got another living legend in the building. Dennis Wardlow, still my main mayor. I don't care what they talk about. How you doing, sir? How you feeling? How's everything going?
Everything's going great, Louis. I appreciate the invite. Being here tonight, everything is health-wise going good.
Nice, you looking good. Look like you in your playing weight.
Still here and still working out and still at my playing weight.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people here that know you, obviously, and there's a lot of other people that are checking in from all over the world that have no idea. So can you just give them a little introduction about yourself and how long you've been down here dealing with Conch and the whole 9 yards?
Well, I could fudge my age, but I'm 76 years old, born and raised in Key West.
Gotcha.
I'm a true blue Conch. My mother was born in Cuba and came over here. Her father was Cuban consul to the United States from Cuba in the late 30s and 40s. My grandmother came over in '61 when Castro came in and took everything they had over there. And we've been raised here. I had 4 other brothers. My older brother, Chucky, passed away. He was young. And my other brother, Dickie, as most of you all know, Dickie was the fire chief. And he and his wife, Nina Jo, were in the accident in Miami and both passed away with John Wright, that's the owner of Miami Subs. But my wife is from Key West, born and raised here. She was born in the Naval Hospital across the street from where we lived. I was born in the Naval Hospital in 1944.
Nice.
My wife graduated from Key West High School, Ann Skelton. It's Ann Skelton Wardlow now. She was salutatorian in 1962 from Key West High School. I'm not going to say I was salutatorian, but I made pretty good grades because I knew how to look on the paper.
Okay.
But I graduated finally from Mary Immaculate High School in '63. And we have 2 kids. My daughter, Amy Wardlow, she has 3 daughters, which is Joelle, who's a deputy sheriff, Taylor, who is a lifeguard, and the youngest, Nina, was in the Coast Guard Academy. And I have a grandson, JJ, which is my son Joey's son, and unfortunately, he doesn't play baseball. And as you know, Joey played all through high school, Little League, college, and professional. JJ is a pole vaulter, and he participated here in that pole vaulting that they had held here in Key West a few months ago. And he loves it, and he's doing fantastic. He goes to St. Thomas Aquinas, where Joey's the head coach, head baseball coach there. And he has had, I think he's got 5 state championships from high school through college through professional. with his rings. When he puts his rings on, all 5 fingers are covered.
Nice.
And
to me, Joey Wardlow, #1 second baseman in the world out here for the Conch. And we're going to talk about that 84 state championship special run. In case y'all watching, Mayor, a lot of people still don't know we got 11 state championships down here, the most out of anybody in Florida. And we got 1 high school, so that's a hell of an accomplishment. Yeah. So we're going to take all questions today because there's a lot of misinformation about the Conch Republic, and we're going to get to that. So what I need y'all to do is hit notifications right here, right now. Come on in, any question that you want, we're going to answer them today. And for those of y'all watching on YouTube worldwide, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Look, you already got some comments in here. You got Cassidy checking in, thank you. Mikey Story says, Bubba, you have a great man next to you. Long live the Conch Republic. Boy, that's a character that I like. Yeah. Martha Marshall checking in. Thank you. All love right now. So let's get to the meats and potatoes on what's going on, Mr. Mayor. So how was the Conch Republic born? Give us the whole story from how it started and how we got to be world famous worldwide.
All right. Well, I'm going to go from right from the beginning. My dad was a ham radio operator, and he started hearing this broadcast from these ham operators that they couldn't get out of the keys. This was a Sunday afternoon. He gave me a call and asked what was going on. And at that point, I said, I really don't know. I hadn't heard anything. He says, well, you've got a traffic jam up in Key Largo trying to get out of the keys, and a lot of people are really upset about it. I said, well, let me call. I called the chief of police. It was Jimmy James at the time, and he had no idea. He didn't know what was going on. Called the sheriff. They didn't know what was going on.
Wow.
So we were trying to figure out why. I said, well, maybe it was an accident or something close to Florida City. Well, we kept going back and forth, and Monday morning I get to the office, and my secretary, Stella Cinceneros, she told me, she says, the phone's ringing off the hook. She says, people want to know what's going on. They're stuck in this traffic jam. It was a 23 mile. It was from Florida City down into Key Largo.
Wow.
So I called our state rep, which was Joe Allen, and he said, I've been hearing about it, but I don't know what's going on. So he suggested I call the Capitol to Dante Fascell, who was our congressman at the time. And so I called my dad. He and my dad grew up together here. So I said, do you happen to have, because, back then we didn't have cell phones. So he had his number. So I called his office, and they put me through. And I asked Congressman Fascell, I said, could you tell me what is going on the Florida Keys? The people. And he said, Dennis, to be truthful, he says, I don't know. He says, but I will find out and get back to you. Well, at that point, I said, oh, God, I wonder how long this is going to take. Well, within an hour, he called me back. And he informed me that the Border Patrol had put up a checkpoint at Florida City. And I said, why? He says, well, we're trying to figure that out. So in the meantime, I went over to John Magliola, who was with WIIS, the radio station, and they're on Southern Street. And I said, John, you hearing anything? He says, yeah, I'm hearing a lot. They call in the station and they want to know what's going on. And my buddy Joe Velez was with AT&T, and I said, are you all getting? He says, man, it's ringing off the hook in the switchboard. Everybody's wanting to find out why this roadblock. So this was Monday. This Tuesday comes, and I mean, it's bad. People are just in a rage. The Hotel Motel, Virginia Penteco, was president of the Hotel Motel Association at the time, and Ed Swift was president of the chamber. So we called them, and they were having all kind of cancellations, and they were, really getting worried now. We had just, let me digress here a second. We had just gone through the Mariel boat lift. where the media had portrayed Key West as a place where there was a lot of refugees coming in and they were overrunning the city, which wasn't true. What was going when they came in, they were being put on Greyhound buses and they were going right to the detention center in Miami. But that wasn't the word that was out. So at that point, Wednesday morning, the phone was just, Stella was just inundated with phone calls. So I said, well, we have to do something. So I called David Paul Horan, and I said, well, he's a federal attorney. And I called Dave. I said, Dave, you think you could get us a hearing at the federal courthouse to see if we can file an injunction? So he said, yes, let me see what I could do. I'll start working on it. So he called me back Thursday morning and said, we have an appointment, a hearing, Friday morning at 9 a.m. at the federal courthouse in Miami. I said, great. So Dave was a pilot. He had his own airplane. So Friday early, Dave Horan, Virginia Penico, Ed Swift, and myself got in the plane, and we flew to Miami, got a car, and we went to the federal building, the federal courthouse. And we get in there, and the judge was present. The original judge wasn't going to take the case, but Judge Atkins took the case. And I'll go back to Atkins in a little while. So we get there at the courthouse, and on the way in, I picked up a copy of the Miami Herald. So when we get in there, the Border Patrol's there, Captain McAdams, I'll never forget his name. And we start, the legalese and their attorney, our attorney, David, and they went back and forth as to they were looking for illegal aliens. And then they said, well, we found some drugs, and they went on with that. So finally, I asked Dave, I said, David, can I ask a question? He says, well, if the judge allows it, and I asked the judge, may I ask a couple of questions? And he said, definitely, you could ask some questions. So I asked the captain, I said, how many illegal aliens have you actually been able to catch going through the roadblock? And he says, well, we got a German, we've caught a couple of French people, and come to find out they had left their green cards or their border pass in Homestead. Right. And I said, well, what about the drugs? He says, well, we found about 3 pounds of drugs off and on the highway. And I said, well, who is going to have drugs in their car sitting in a 23-mile traffic jam? I mean, is that all you found? And he said, yes, but we're looking for more. So with that, I said, well, how long do you intend to keep this checkpoint up? So with that, he and his assistant come over to the table, and they unroll this blueprint to build a permanent checkpoint, i.e. Mexico, Canada, at Florida City.
Oh, I didn't know that part. Wow.
So I looked at the judge, and the judge looked at that, and he didn't like that at all, but he couldn't stop it.
Right.
So I said, Your Honor, I got a copy of the Miami Herald right here. I said, and coming up the Miami River, there was, I don't know, 1,000. The numbers escape me exactly now of the refugees, and they caught I don't know how many tons of marijuana and cocaine. I said, don't you think maybe they have this checkpoint in the wrong place? It should be between Miami Beach and Miami. And he gave me this look and he said, Mr. Mayor, I tend to agree with you, but I can't stop them. I don't have the authority to stop them from putting the checkpoint. However, I can stop them from creating the traffic jam. They have to let, like if it's every 5th car or 6th car and it starts to back up, they have to let them through. So as David Paul said, Horan, He says, it's like kissing your sister on the cheek. Because I said, did we win or lose?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He says, half and half. So with that, we're walking out, and Virginia was next to me. And when we get to the door, it was like a sea of reporters out there.
Right.
Because John Magliola, and it was Townsend Kiefer, and that with the AP and UPI had put the word out that this was
Right.
going on.
Right.
So that's how the publicity started. So we get out there and they're asking questions, and this one reporter from one of the local stations, they come up and they put this mic in my face, and they said, Mr. Mayor, now that you've lost the case, what are you going to do? And I kind of looked at Virginia, and Claude Valdez had designed the Key West flag, and I think
Right.
she had it in her purse.
Right.
And I looked at the flag, and I said, tomorrow at noon, we're going to secede. If they're going to treat us as a foreign country, we'll become a foreign country. So we walk out, we get in the car, and Ed was in the front seat, and Virginia and I in the back, and Paul. And Ed turns around, and he says, Dennis, what the heck are you going to do? I said, truthfully, I have no idea.
Hey, that's a hell of a story.
Now that we've committed, we've got to do something. So anyway, that day, we started calling, got a hold of Topino's. I think it was Frank Topino at the time, and I said if we could borrow a lowboy and get in front of the Chamber building at Mallory Square.
Right.
So we put the lowboy there, and we got some portable mics, and we were ready that next day. Well, about 6 o'clock that morning, I get a phone call at the house from the admiral of the base in Key West, and at that time it was the Navy. It wasn't just the Coast Guard. So the admiral and I, we were friendly. We'd seen each other at different parties and so forth. So he says, Dennis, you can't bomb our ships. You can't lower the flag. We've got CIA, FBI, the sheriff, everybody looking. They don't know whether they're going to arrest you or what. I said, we're not bombing the ships. Well, he says, well, that's not what the Miami Herald says. And I'm like, oh my God. So a little while later, at that time, Tony McGeer had the biplane. And Tony also owned the Harley Davidson shop here. And he was a little eccentric. He gives me a call and he says, when you raise the flag and we going to war, he says, I'm going to fly over Mallory Square and I'm going to bomb the ships. And my heart stopped. I said, Tony, you can't do that. I said, they want to arrest me now. And I said, you know, we've got some people a little upset here. So
classic.
He says,
classic stuff.
No, since I heard about it, I've been up all night cooking conch fritters and boils.
Nice.
I said, and he says, and I'm going to drop them on the ship and we'll feed them till they can't move. He says, I got 2 barrels full. I'm going to bomb them with it. So I said, oh, okay, maybe we could go with that. So I get to the office and Stella's in a panic. And Stella says, we've got people wanting to know what's going to happen to their Social Security, what kind of money we're going to have. She says, so I get to Mallory Square. I said, you know, this is really getting out of hand now. So I get to Mallory Square and we're getting ready to put it together. And I got my speech all ready. And Ed Brose was in the police department, and George Cabanas was one of the detectives, and I had my wife Ann and Joey and Amy with me, and we get up there and they start pushing them back on the stage on the lowboy. So I asked Brose, I said, man, what's going on? He says, brother, you've had death threats. They're going to tar and feather you and run out of here. Your political career is over. He says, they're down here. They already ready to put the cuffs on you. And I'm sitting there and I'm a nervous wreck. So then the county commission at the time said, don't mention our name we don't want nothing to do with this. You're crazy. And some of my city commissioners said, don't mention our name. You're going down. You can't do this. So a little while later, I see Joe Bamonting. You remember Joe Bamonting?
Yeah.
And Joe comes up. He says, I got your back. I said, I appreciate that. So, and I saw Jimmy Myra off the corner of my eye. And then I look out at the audience, and there was quite a crowd out there. And I see Wilhelmina Harvey, who was the mayor of the county, her husband, and a few others with these signs protesting. Don't tread on this old gray mayor.
Oh my goodness!
You're done. Well, I mean, they were coming after me. So I said, well, it's almost time. So I see Joe, and Joe's there, and he's got this loaf of Cuban bread, and right below the low boy was these guys in their white uniforms and their hat with all the egg on it, and I'm looking at them. I'm like, oh God. So I start reading my speech, and Joe Velez was the one going to raise the flag. So I say, we're Conch, and we're not going to take it anymore. And I went on with that, and then I said, if you're going to treat us as a foreign country, we're going to become a foreign country. And I now declare war, and we shall secede when we raise our flag. So Joe starts raising the flag, and I see Joe walk across me, and I'm thinking to myself, what is he going to do? Because he's got it like a rifle, and I figured he was going to just, he proceeds to walk to this captain or admiral, whatever he was, and he hits him over the head with this loaf of bread, and the bread scatters. And I said, we are now at war. We have fired our shot. And then here comes Tony McGee coming over, and I'm like, hopefully this is what he's going to do. So he comes over. So right after that, I see people starting to move around a little bit, and I said, we immediately after that, within a minute, we surrendered and asked for $1 billion in foreign aid, which is still an active application. They haven't paid us, but it's still active. And from there, we start celebrating. Here we are 38 years later, we're still celebrating. They haven't tarred and feathered me. They haven't put me away anywhere.
That's an incredible story. Denise, let's clap it up. That's incredible.
And we ain't finished yet. So then, this was 1982. Key West High School baseball was in the running for the state, and we were playing Hialeah that night at Miami-Dade Junior College. So after the ceremony, and we went and the trip, and anyway, we all, Ann and Amy, myself, we jump in the car and we're heading up to Hialeah to the game. So we get to the game, and the bus went through the checkpoint, all of them waving the Conch Republic flag and yelling at the Border Patrol. So we get up there, and we're sitting there, and I want to remind you that I am half Cuban, so don't take this wrong. So we have our Conch Republic flag. Hialeah has the American flag, and they're chanting, USA, USA. And we're up there, Conch Republic lives and all that. Anyway, the game went on. It was a fantastic game. The end result was Key West won something like 2-1 or 3-2, something there. We won the game, and we were on our way to the state, or to the regional. So in the Miami Herald, the headlines the next day was, the small nation of the Conch Republic wins their first skirmish on foreign soil.
Nice.
That was the headline.
Nice.
So I'm going to digress just for a second, and I'm going to tell you about Judge Atkins. Judge Atkins and my daddy grew up together here. He's a Conch, Judge Atkins. Well, he had a twitch, and when you were talking, you could see him. And my daddy told me before I went up, he says, if he locks that twitch and you're talking, sit down and don't say another word. I said, all right. So I'm sitting there talking, asking these questions, and I'm looking at him, seeing what he's doing. And he's still twitching. And when I showed the picture, and that captain says, we're going to do this permanent checkpoint, he says, well, we don't, I don't know about that. And he locked that twitch. I said, oh, he's in trouble.
That is awesome, man.
So anyway, there was a little humor involved in it, but it was serious. It was scary. We did secede. And right after that, our economy started, and this whole thing was about the economy. It was about bringing back Key West to life. And right after that, the Navy pulled out, and I was sitting, I believe it was Frank Romano. I was standing on Front Street with him. We were talking about the tourist development, which was then the Key West Tourist Development Council. You could shoot a cannon down to Wall Street and you wouldn't hit anything. The buildings were boarded up. I mean, this was a ghost town. Right. So once we got that started with the Key West Tourist Development Council in 1983 or 84, I think it was right in that era. I get a phone call from the county, and they said, could you meet with us because we want to join forces or create the Monroe County Tourist Development Council? I said, sure. So we sat down, we had Stuart Newman, his son Andy Newman is now with the publicity, for the Monroe County Tourists. And they did, and I was very proud of it. I've got a plaque on my wall as a founding member of the Monroe County Tourist Development Council. And I tell people today, I said, you know, I'm probably the founding member of the Key West Tourist Development, the Monroe County Tourist Development. But you know the problem today? I'm not smart enough to be on either one of those committees. You got to be an expert.
Dennis, let me say this. That's an incredible story. I mean, that's made for a movie. I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know today. We got a lot of people checking in here. Doris from Stock Island over there, Arnold's Towing, says she loved the story. You got good old, I know you out there in Marathon Lawn. You know this character, William Gonzalez?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, he's out there also on the Facebook.
Louis Gonzalez also.
Yeah, Big Louis. Yvette checking in, said, love this man, love this family. William says, you're a legend. Let me see. All these names from back in the day. This was all about the Conch Republic. And, in times like this is so refreshing to get some positive stuff going on because, a lot of people just want to stay negative. And, a lot of people just watch the news all day, 24/7, 365. And, they don't put a lot of good stuff on the news. It's all bad news across the board. But for you to maintain that character, doing the Conch Republic, and basically not go ahead and panic and just keep it going, I mean, that's historic, and that makes you the man who you are. And I applaud you for that because anybody else would have completely backed down at one point.
It was close. It was scary. No question. When they started pulling me back or pulling my family back and saying, you've had death threats, and I got to give my hat off to Stella. Stella Cincinnaros was a trooper. I mean, when I walked in that office, there were messages had to have been a foot high with people calling about their Social Security, and she was in a panic. And back then we didn't have cell phones, so she couldn't communicate right away. But
this is the thing that I say, Dennis, which is you got to stand up for what you believe in. How the hell are you going to come to a place you're already doing bad back then, and then it's already 3.5 hours one way and one way out. There's no double lanes, and then I can imagine who the hell wants to come down here and spend 8 hours stuck in the traffic jam. That's ridiculous.
It was bad, and there was a lot of cancellations. And like I say, Virginia Pennico was president of the Hotel Motel, and she owned the El Patio.
And she owned the patio? Really?
She and her family.
Wow.
And they were getting all these cancellations, and it was scary. And
look, you got a gentleman here. Mikey Story says, watching with my dad, Frank Story. He was there at them old times. That's classic. So let me ask you this, Dennis. Now, as you know, with the pandemic going on, they shut down US 1, and now there's people calling to shut it down again. What's your opinion on this?
Well, I think when they first shut down US 1, I was probably in favor of it, but I don't think we need to shut it down again. You can't keep asking the businesses to open and close. What they have to do, and I strongly believe that this virus is bad. Like I say, I'm 76 years old. I don't want it. But if the people would adhere to the policy that they set, wear the mask, stay, watch where you're at, get tested, and that's why I got my concrete public
I
house.
got the Conch mentality.
Be all safe.
It
Be all
can't.
safe.
Denise, you masked over there. You
be
masked
all
up?
Be safe. You go to the store. What I see happening sometimes is you get some of these, and now it seems like the younger crowd is starting to pick this up.
Yes.
And they just think
Young people, Dennis, are hard headed, and they don't get it. But like what the best point I heard is that you don't want to infect your grandfather or your grandmother or your mother, and you have the respect to others. Like here in this program, we get, well, why are you guys not wearing masks? If you watch Channel 10, they don't wear a mask either because we're trying to get a message out, and it's hard with the mask. I do it with Burroughs on Friday, but that's the only reason we don't do it. But we have strict protocols here. Dennis will tell you when he walked here, and we don't play around with this stuff. We dead serious about this.
And where can they get tested?
Yeah. Advanced
Free
urgent
testing.
care.
Advanced urgent
Yeah, Key West Marathon, Key Largo. So at the end of the day, like you said, you cannot just shut down everything completely because I think the economy will collapse.
Louis, I tell you this, and I got to give credit. When Duval Street was closed down and all these shops were empty, okay, there was a lot of people that were unemployed, and at that point when we started, you had the Spotswoods, the Ed Swifts, the Topinos. These people started putting their money down there and getting these shops. You have to give, the gay community came in here, and they renovated and made this place and fixed these stores up and put their money into it. The writers came in here. The TV people came in here. So Key West has always been a live and let live and a welcoming community.
Yes.
And I believed in that. My daddy said, everybody, you open your arms and you welcome everyone.
One human family. And like we were saying off camera, Dennis, if we lose that, we're pretty much cooked. And I want you to elaborate on that because people don't understand. This will never go back to 1940 where you had 7 cars on the road. We build on tourism.
You build on tourism, you build on people that come here. They love the uniqueness, they love the friendliness, and you kind of push and stress that. And you also have to realize, and a lot of people that come and they have theirs, and then they say, well, we don't want tourism. Well, we built on tourism. Key West is still unique, and I don't want to see us renovated. I don't want to see us with a new image, because if you lose the uniqueness of this island,
We're special.
we're special. You can go to a mall, Miami Beach or any place.
Right.
Key West has the Wall Street. Right. And that's what people come to see.
Right, no doubt.
And the way it's working, I think we need to keep that.
Yeah.
Because if we lose that, we've got a lot of friendly people here. You walk the Wall Street, whether you know them or not, it's hello, how are you, how's everything?
Yeah.
Be safe. You see them in the store. And as I said, I don't want to belabor this, but Key West has always been a live and let live, a welcoming. Everybody's welcome.
One human family, we got to keep it like that.
And I always say when they start getting into it, I say, you know what? Everybody bleeds red. And that's what I see. I don't see anything else.
Right.
I grew up, on Windsor Lane, playing softball with Barroso knees on Poorhouse Lane. So I just don't see anything else. I believe everyone comes to this town, the people that have been in this town, and sometimes I get upset when they say, oh, the Bubbas, the Conchs. We made this town. We invited you all here, and you're here now, and we welcome you. Don't displace me.
Right.
All my family. I want to be here, and so do they. So anyway, and that's not coming from a hate, or that's coming from my heart.
No, that's all love there. Dennis, let me ask you this. Talking about bleeding red, in 84, we definitely was bleeding red and gray. Can you describe the 1984 Key West High School baseball state championship season and that run and that magical time where they didn't think we could win the state championship and how we made it happen? Because Joey Wardlow was out there, man. What a team and what a heart to win that state
We
championship.
had a great team, and when we left here to go to Lakeland, they pretty well wrote us off. But we had David Flatus, we had
Sean
Niles,
Freddie
Varela,
Louis Blanco.
Oh, brother, couldn't have made it without Louis Blanco.
Yeah.
Behind the plate.
Yeah.
But they came. Matter of fact, we were losing that game, and they came from behind, and Sean Niles came in, and shut them down.
Yeah.
These guys, we were not favored to win. Matter of fact,
I think we was like, correct me if I'm wrong, in the midway through the season, we was at 500.
we weren't even favored to go there.
Right.
And this team had a lot of heart.
Yep.
They
gelled together.
Gelled together. They knew what each other. They had played together, and they came back and
on the whole thing.
you know, Vince Vivaldi. You know, we had all these guys, and most of these guys, other than David Flater and Louis, they weren't too big. They were scrappy.
And let me tell you this. I mean, like I said, one high school for those of y'all watching. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button here. Those who are watching on Facebook Live, hit the notifications here. Let me tell you, one high school, we don't do any recruiting at all. And back in the day, you could lose one game in the playoffs. Now you have double elimination. Back in the day, it was on. And usually came out of Miami will win the whole thing because the competition was fierce. And, you know, I came after that. I started playing in 85. And, you know, those guys brought me in. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for helping me when I was a youth because, you know, I was riding wide open back there. You try to keep me grounded, and you know we have to put respect on people's name. And I appreciate what you said there. You know, people came down here. We embrace everybody, but don't try to be anti-Bubba, anti-Conch or whatever. Because at the end of the day, we all live in a small town here. We got to get along. And like I tell you, you know, it's serious now. What's very serious right now is the election, both locally and November coming 2020. We need everybody out there to vote. The supervisor elections challenged me to get 85% of the vote out. And as you know, a lot of young people don't vote. So let me ask you this. What are your picks for the upcoming election for the city commission here locally?
I only have one pick, and I'm wearing it.
Okay.
My brother Billy is up for re-election.
Hey.
I like get out and vote, make sure he gets re-elected. This will be his fourth term. He's done a fantastic job. His heart is in this city. And I think when he does vote, I know in that district, but when he looks at the entire city, he's part of, remember, he's retired fire chief.
Right.
And he came up through the ranks. Nobody gave him anything. He worked, he went to school and came up through the ranks. As my brother Dickie, when he came up from a rear end man, same as Billy, and they fought the big fire at
Copa.
The Copa.
Yeah, 623 Duval Street.
Wow.
So now I'm glad he said that. So the Copa here, real brief, they had a fire that started in the back, and I believe it was a windy night. And what happened is that fire kept going and getting hotter and hotter, and it kept carrying on, burning a whole goddamn almost a block and a half down.
Right.
Billy fought the one at the Cuban Club. That didn't burn it down. And they, you know, both of them. And now, you know, I have cousins as sellers, and I have my nephew, Kenny Jr., who's deputy chief now.
Kenny Wardlow right here, checking in. What he says, good job, Uncle. So, go to Where's the Party Key West. Anybody coming down and find out what is really going on, because we still open down here, and be nice to tourists. We got to put respect on tourists' name, and we got to get along. We're going to figure out we're in a tough spot, but we're going to be just fine. The only way we could do it is work together for the solution and not the problem. Thank you all for tuning in. All love. You got any questions on anything, come on in. So what's this story, man? They still looking for this guy, Bonfardo. Where Bonfardo at? That's what I want to know. I mean, this is an incredible story, too. If you had a lot of dealings with him?
Yeah, let me tell you something. Bonfardo was he was a good guy. You know, he went off for a while, but he did more for the Little League, for the kids, for the kids that, when they'd come to that, some of these kids, because I coached Little League for a while, and I coached Pony League. These kids had come that needed a ride to the practice, or they didn't have any equipment. Bum would buy that equipment from Captain Reds at the time, and he'd bring the equipment and just donate it. He made sure all these kids, and he didn't care where they were from, had equipment to play with. And Bum went off to the left a little bit, but I still admire him. He was a fantastic fire chief. I mean, he slept.
What era was that? What years was that when Bum Farter was a fire chief?
Ah, geez, man, you're making me think now. That had to have been in the 70s, 60s, 70s.
Really? Wow. That's a long time ago.
You had Charlie Cremata, you had Gus Paris, Eddie Castro. I mean, we can keep naming.
And there's a prize,
Gibby Gates, and then I think Gibby took Bum. I could be wrong there. It's too far back.
Let me ask you this, because
Bum was a good. He had a good family. He's got a good family. He's got a lot of his family still here, and they do get a little defensive when people start, because they know Bum. Joe Velez's mama was Bum's sister, and they had it was a close family.
I want to give a shout out to the Key West firefighters out here, because I put up our fire department against any fire department in the world, and there's a lot of good people out there. The city's full of good people, and I want y'all to come together and work together, because nobody knows the answer. Like, I call this a category 6. They didn't give you no manual. There's no books to read in the situation that we're in. I said we used to be in a movie. Now I said, well, we're in Netflix episode number 2, and we could leave here and a whole thing changed from 8. This is unpredictable. We was talking about this 1918 when the pandemic happened. What a lot of people don't know, this went to 1921. So it went like almost 4 years. Now, granted, we don't have the resources and stuff we have, they didn't have that then that we have now, but this is not going to go away tomorrow or the next day. And I want y'all not to panic about these cases. Me and Dr. Burrows told you that more testing, is going to be more positives. And the thing to keep the eye on is hospitalizations, in my opinion.
But, Louis, I haven't, but, most people have been through this. You had the pandemic, 1918. You had yellow fever. Yeah. You had polio,
AIDS.
Yeah. You had all of these problems come up with these different viruses, and we've always found a cure. We've always found something that at least slows it down.
Right.
And I think we'll do the same thing here. I'm a positive person. I try to stay away from the negative. And I keep looking at it and saying, you know what? I think that we've got enough resources in this country that we will have a virus. And I think that it's going to be something that's going to be just like polio.
You're saying we're going to have a vaccine. To cure.
Well, yeah. We're going to have something to at least control it, which we're already pretty close to now. Yeah. The vaccine, you're probably looking at, I don't know, I'm not involved. I'm just what I
It's not going to be tomorrow. It's going to take a little time for that.
It's going to be where they can control this virus, and I think that's going to come pretty soon. And that's why I hate to see the businesses, the people that are suffering today with open and close. And, I think we've got to look at it and say, yes, there's a problem. But you have to look at the economy, because without the economy, we can't function. I mean, I'm still working. I work for the Spotswoods, and we've got the Hyatt and the Marriott and Stock Island, and I see how.
If I'm not mistaken, Dennis, you guys kept everybody employed, and that's a lot of people, because you're not only dealing with Key West, you're in the Marathon area, and there's a lot of stuff because. There's people that say, well, just shut down the Keys. But when you talk about shutting down people's paycheck, this is tough. People like my entertainers and stuff, they have to go on Facebook Live platforms and just eat lunch, man. This is a serious situation. So I'm not saying, be completely reckless, but also we got to work together to figure it out, because if tourism collapsed, the city collapse. I mean, it's bottom line. That's what, and we're never going to put the money in front of health, but we have to balance it, I believe.
It has to be balanced, the economy, and if, again, there are policies in place. If the people would follow the policies, and I realize we get some of these younger generation come in here, and I'm sure it happened on the Wall Street, I've heard about it, where a couple of the establishments wouldn't let them in because they didn't have facial protection and no mask, and they got very rowdy, and they had code enforcement and police, but it's for not only for their protection, it's for our protection, and they need to start to realize that. And I think with that in place, which is in place, we just have to help enforce it. And that will solve the problem. But you cannot keep opening and closing these businesses. These people can't, they can't live like that. So I know some people won't agree with me, and you have people that are on retirements that they have and fixed incomes, and they have an income.
Right.
These people that are starting out or working in the service industry, that's their income.
That's it, 100%.
And without it, they can't buy groceries, they can't go to the store, they can't take care of the family, and we've got to look to that. And SOS does a great job of helping to feed these people that need help.
Great organization.
Great organization. The people that volunteer to get the food to them, that helps these others and have. It's fantastic. But that's what we're all about. That's what the human race is supposed to be all about.
Dennis, let me ask you this, because I think there was an order passed by the governor. He says he wants schools open. So do you agree or disagree?
I agree 100%. You got to get these kids out of the house. You got to get the education going. And I'm prejudiced to that extent, and they could say, because my son's a teacher at St. Thomas High School there in Fort Lauderdale, and these kids are texting him all the time. My daughter's a teacher here, an ESE teacher. These kids need to get back to school, and you have the principals, you have the teachers, you have resources that can work and help these kids. You work with the parents, make sure these kids have their mask, make sure they understand. You've got to talk to these kids today. Right. You can't just let them get on the telephone and look at Facebook. Right. And by the way, I don't do Facebook. I don't do Instagram. I got a dumb phone. I don't have a smartphone.
Let me ask you this, because this.
But that's my take on it.
No, and I agree. I think we got to figure something out and make it safe to go to schools, but we got to come up with a plan. I mean, the nation can't stay locked down. I mean, we got to figure it out in this tough situation. Somebody said, I'll quote them. They said, this ain't rocket science. This is more complicated. This is the first time I heard there's more things complicated than rocket science. So let me ask you this. Do you think we're ever going to get the situation of affordable housing in check? Because we've been working on this for a century.
Louis, that's a tough one. I know there are a lot of people working on this. I know from where I work, the Spotswoods in Marathon, we have employee housing, and we house the employees there, which is a tremendous help, because when they had to be furloughed or laid off, they still had a place to live.
Right.
And when we were able to hire them back, they were able to come back to work.
Right. You kept your employees.
And you've got to give them credit for this, because they take care of their employees. Mm-hmm. And I keep saying, when these, and I'm going to get in trouble here, but I say my piece. People know me. I don't bite my tongue. These developments that are coming online, that are saying they want to do this and want to do, build projects. The first thing they got to do is say, how many employees do you anticipate? Okay, we're going to have 50 employees. Well, you better have employee housing, number one. You better be able to house your employees, which is going to open up some of these other places for the people that have their own businesses and employ people. And I think if we work to that, I think the sheriff department and the county now, and the city, I think, is coming together with them to build some affordable housing. Now, what is affordable? Okay, if they come to me and say, we've got a unit we're going to sell you for $400,000 and I make $15 an hour, that's not affordable.
It doesn't add up.
It's
The numbers don't work.
And the only way to do that is the city and the county have to start looking at the restrictions of affordable housing and say, okay, we're going to waive these permits. Because if you buy a piece of property, just the property, and you haven't built yet, it's costing you $100,000
Well,
just to get the permit. That has to be waived. That has to, and I realize the city and the county have got to function. They've got employees, but there are certain elements of the projects that if it's affordable housing or employee housing, you got to differentiate there. Then it should be a waiver of the permitting fees. And I know I'm not going to get a lot of agreement. They're probably going to yell and scream at me and tell me I'm crazy again and go back to the rest home.
I don't think you're crazy. Matter of fact, if I was mayor, what I'm thinking that I would do is I would sign affordable housing task force, and I'll put people in there, and their job is to try to give us recommendations, go from A to Z. I don't know if we had that before.
But Lou, you got to look at affordable housing, and you got to say to yourself, what is actually affordable?
Right.
Nobody answers that question.
Right.
They throw out affordable housing.
Right, but it's really not affordable.
But who's it affordable for?
Right. No, that's a great point.
And I know some developers aren't going to like that, and I know the city and county's not, but it's a fact.
Right.
When you say affordable housing, you better have some kind of a criteria that says, what is it going to cost? Nobody asks that question. What's it going to cost? Oh, it's going to cost $300,000, $400,000. Well, I'm sorry, but is the workforce housing going to be able to afford that? No.
We got some people coming in here. Tangela checking in.
I'll get off my high horse on that.
Let me tell you something. No, this is brilliant information. Every day here is a blessing for me because I learn. I be quiet and listen because I want to know how we can move the city forward. And we were blessing to have you come on the show here, so like that we could get some information out because you got to think outside the box. Conch Republics was before the term outside the box, about as far as outside the box. They actually would try to kill the man. He still went forward, and here we are today. But he saved us because the part that I really found very interesting, these son of a guns were trying to build a permanent structure on US 1 just to check people like the Mexican border. This is unconstitutional from the beginning, but they actually had the blueprint.
Let me tell you one.
Go ahead.
Digress here a second.
Right.
The Last Chance Bar, Skeeter Davies. Skeeter Davies would wear a Confederate uniform. He had a cannon, a fake cannon. And every time they put up the checkpoint, he'd call me at the office. Say, Mr. Mayor, say, what's up, Skeeter? He says, they're putting up the damn checkpoint. What do you want me to do? I say, shoot them. He says, okay. I said, no, wait a minute. He says, no, I'm going to shoot him. Well, he went and he'll roll that cannon out, and boy, he'd like that thing. And
He actually we would shoot for real.
No, it shot blanks.
Oh, okay. But it
Well,
made
it
the
blew
sound
like a sound.
Gotcha. And he went up there and did that.
No, he owned the Last Chance Bar. That's where they set the check right in front of his place.
Oh, got you. Wow, that's
So,
crazy.
He was great. He came down here to the fort and shot it off one time. They did a reenactment here or something.
It should be a movie.
And
Denise, you got a comment there. I think from Mike's story.
Yeah,
we keep it
yeah.
blood raw out here. We
So,
want to get all comments here.
We stopped there on one time, myself and a few others. We said, well, let's go to the Last Chance Bar. That was a rough place. That was a motorcycle place. It's still there.
Right.
His daughter's got it because he passed away. So I walk in, and they've got the big Conch Republic flag sticking up there, and these motorcycle Hell's Angels, and they're looking at me like, who's this little short here coming in our place? So I walk in there, and Skeeter was there, and he says, Mr. Mayor, this is the man. This big burly bartender, I'm standing by the bar. He reaches over and grabs me under the arms. He lifts me up and he puts me on the bar. And he says, everybody in this place better buy him a drink today. I said, wait a minute. But
awesome.
it was fantastic.
No, that's good times, man.
Skeeter was just a super person. He was my outpost. I named him as my outpost.
Nice.
My sergeant of the outpost.
Nice.
And we became pretty
No,
good
this
friends.
is great stuff.
But I didn't mean to change subject,
No,
but I
it's
had
all
to
good.
mention
It's all
Skeeter.
Wonderful.
Denise Lane on the production today.
We got it.
I
I
don't
want to
know.
give a shout out. We have Clayton Lopez checking in. How are you, sir?
I fully support Clayton Lopez
Yes.
1,000,000%.
We've got Mikey Story saying this is why we need the Wardlow mentality in our commission. He should be mayor again and his brother on the same board. It's the right way to think.
Wow.
They couldn't deal with us.
Wow.
He's the man.
Clayton Lopez says, you got Clayton over there, Denise?
I do. It says not many of us around anymore. Who remembers this firsthand?
Right. Clayton's a good man. I support Clayton. I'm also in support of Mark Rossi, so that's me personally. But the main thing y'all need to do is vote. And the last question I got for you, Mr. Mayor, is how important is the city and the county to work unified?
I think the city and the county have to come together and work together. I think Greg Velez and Roman Gustesi are probably the first time in a long time people are sitting down and communicating and trying to get things accomplished on an equal basis here. And I think it's very important that they do that. I know we have a lot of good people. We have a good administration in this city right now. City manager, the assistant city manager, the attorney. I think everyone is on the same page and they're all for the city of Key West, and they're working with Roman and Heather and a lot of these people that are working for the city and the county. And I think that they need to continue that. They you know, and I know they're having meetings on different issues, and I'm gonna call them issues right now, but I'm sure that they'll find some agreement. But if they do that, and at least, you know, they and I'm gonna
Getting a lot of
go
love
back
there.
and talk politics a little bit. You accomplish a lot, whether you're on the golf course, over lunch, over happy hour, and I mean, you might as well tell it like it is, because you're able to communicate a little bit better, and as long as the city managers or the attorneys are talking, I don't believe that's a sunshine violation.
Right.
As long as the commissioners
Right.
and they take that information back to their commission and their staff, I think you'll find that we'll be moving forward. And again, I'm a positive person, and I think it's I don't look back too much. I look forward, because you can't go back and undo the past, but you can go forward.
Bottom line is, what I take away from this, the line of communications have to be open and egos have to be put to the side, and we got to do what's best for the city and county is basically what I'm hearing you say.
Yes. And before you close, you're getting ready, I've got to give one big
take your
shout
time.
out. As you know, you were there. The city named the amphitheater after my dear friend.
Coffee Buzzer. Great speech. Clayton was playing with you, but you got him back. So I like that.
Listen,
Clayton just said thank you, Mikey.
A bubba. Clayton's my bubba.
Yeah.
You know. And like I say, we worked hard to get it. I was totally opposed to some big name or some beer company.
Yeah.
And I realized, you know, they were looking at the money to pay, and it's not always about the money.
Right.
So I'm so happy that the city approved it. The staff, the engineering department just did a fantastic job on naming and on that monument they built. I don't know if you've seen it. It's
What a great ceremony that we had.
what a great ceremony.
Yeah.
What a deserving person.
Absolutely.
Coffee's been around a long time, and to tell you how long he's been around, I'm gonna age myself here. Before I was 21, Coffee and Tony Davilo was the bartender at Logan's, and Coffee was playing. And myself and a couple others, we were going to play Big Shot. And we walked in Logan's, And Kofi was at the piano, and he looks up and he sees me, and he just shakes his head, and he smiles, and he keeps on playing. and Papa Tony says, "You all better get the hell out of here." I said, "Man, all we want some beer, a 6-pack." He says, "If I give you this, you tell your daddy he's going to kill me." And Kofi's there playing the piano just with a big grin on his face.
That's classic.
That's how far back Kofi and I go, and I think the city just did the best thing it could ever do in making that amphitheater after Kofi.
I'm with you. I believe that, like I said at the beginning of the show, we need to celebrate legends while they're living.
Yes.
This is very critical. Like, you never know when you're going to see somebody for the last time, So basically, embrace those moments because you're in the moment. When you're young and stuff, and you're even in the high school level, you don't know you're living in the moment. And at this time, don't wait for nobody. It's critical, and we got to respect people. The main thing is we lost a lot of respect with people not respecting each other. But as long as you talk to people with some sense, and like you said, even the young people, they're starting to get it. It might take a little time, but we can't go black and white like we was back in the day. It takes a little bit more time and more approach. But I'm for, like what you say here to close, is like if I'm sitting down with my daughter, shout out to Rutgers out there in New Jersey, and I'm having a meal, I don't let them bring the phones to the table. I want people to engage with each other because this was all about. It's very rude to sit on the table before people be on the phone, in my opinion.
We had last night, my youngest granddaughter turned 19, and
Yay! Give her a shout out.
Nina Samansky.
Nina.
So we had a little get together there, and it was nice. It had nice family, and everyone was talking and communicating instead of burying their head. They were communicating.
No question.
And I think it went real well. Everyone had a good time, and like I told Nina one time, I said, "You got the rest of your life, and you got the world is an oyster to you. You're 19. You could be anything you want to be."
Right.
So anyway, happy birthday, Nina.
Happy birthday.
And I appreciate you inviting me.
No, this is my privilege.
I hope I didn't lose you any people on here.
No, we got a lot tuning in. A lot tuning in.
We've been on here. We could go for 3 hours. We got a lot of feedback. Before we close here, I see you got a comment from Clayton Lopez, and then we'll sign off here.
All right, we got Wilhelmina Lopez Martin checking in. Thanks so much.
We better not have. We got Wilhelmina. We in trouble.
We got Mikey Story saying, "I gotta say, tonight's show was one for the books. A great show with a legend. Thank you, Mr. Wardlaw." We've got Yvette checking in with one of the best shows ever.
Awesome.
Let's see. Ed Gates, great show.
I see Clayton on here.
Any last minute questions?
Yeah,
Clayton, we got him saying coffee's 92 years old.
Right. And then I got him saying my daughter and son-in-law are putting up signs right now. That's what it's all about.
Fantastic.
Signs are great, but you got to get out to vote. Thank you all. Dennis, this is awesome. I feel like I'm back in 1984 with the red and gray where you sit on the side of the fence there. Thank you for everything you've done for me. It's a pleasure and an honor. Those of y'all that have an accident or know somebody that needs some assistance with an accident, go to FloridaKeysEnergy.com. Lawyer for all accident in the Keys, whether it be on a moped, on a car, or on a bicycle. They'll take care of you. Advanced urgent care testing everybody. Mostly everything's free. Key West Marathon in Key Largo, and this young lady did it big today. Thank you so much, Denise Lane, Louis C. the Mayor, Conch Republic. Ha!